Hello, awesome people. I hope you're having a great day today. Today we're taking a look at the final book, Imago, in the Lilith's Brood trilogy by Octavia E. Butler. The first book was published in 1987. These are publications that I'll link you to in the comments below. This one is much smaller than the previous two ones. The first one was around 300 pages long. That was good. The next one was a few pages or less, so that was good too. This one is down to 258 pages. I knocked it out in 4 days. And that was good. She does not have sequelitis, and that's always great. Her later books or sequel or the final ones will get longer and longer and longer. Like J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter's or the Foundation series by Asimov, stuff like that. You don't have to worry about that, right? And that's great. Again, I knocked this out very, very fast for you folks. It was very, very... She's a faster writer. She tends not to write beatings, although she will have some deeper words here and there. So she's not the fastest writer, like Michael Moorcock might be, or something like that, right? But she's definitely a writer. There's stuff that doesn't take long to read, and she's definitely kind of known as this faster writer for you folks. So that's why I love her. And so, as a reminder, I picked up the first novel in this trilogy called Dawn when I was at LAX at an airport, heading to Hawaii for spring break a few weeks ago. I had my book to read was the Tolkien's the Silmarillion, which I thought would take me a lot longer. It took me. I read 235 pages on my first flight over there and knocked it out in a couple more days. So I picked this up in LAX on my way there as a backup book, and I knocked it out on the way back in 50 pages the first day, and then I knocked it out on my flight on the way back. So it's pretty fast. Sounds good stuff. So I blew through Dawn. I picked it up in that airport in the sci-fi fantasy section because I had read her Earthsea duo, loved them, if you'll recall, a couple of years ago for this channel, and I love that so much. I also had picked her up in a short story that's based on in the future where there is a disease that's similar to Huntington's disease, and a collection of works by 20th century writers that were black in the science fiction genre in 1999 that I picked up and read for a few stories here and there for this collection, and so I liked it too, and that's why I picked up her Earthsea stuff, loved it, and so forth. And that stuff was written, decades before. It's set around 2020 in a post-apocalyptic world where she predicted a lot of things that would actually be true, right, and so forth. So this is the final book that's written earlier. The first novel, written in 1987, was one of her first ones in this trilogy, Lilith's Brood, and so forth. If you'll recall, she is a Hugo winner, won a lot of Hugos, particularly in the 80s. In 1985, she won a short story Hugo. She won, I think it's novelette one in 86, and this is 87, and that begins the series right after that. Also, as a reminder, this channel's name is The Worst Thing About New Books, which is a quote by a French philosopher from the 19th century, Jacques Joubert, who said that the worst thing about them was that they kept us from reading the old ones, right? And so I like going back here and reading a lot of these older works that people may not have heard of and so forth, or sometimes works by famous authors that people just haven't heard of, right? Like science, like other novels that weren't in the canon, right? And that sort of a thing. So I like going back and reading all those sorts of things, and a series that was originally published in 1987, right? That's decades ago. That's one of the reasons why I like this so much. Finding these things for you folks. My friend read the first novel in this, if you'll recall. He gave it a 3 out of 5. He said it had some brilliantly good ideas, but not always the best execution. And I can see where you could come up with that. As a reminder, keep my spoiler free. So I'll be doing a deep dive into the third novel. But I'll give you basically what's happening to start things out in the first few chapters to get you sort of feet wet. So basically what's happening is that our key character in the first novel is Lilith, the name of the character, Lilith's Brood of the trilogy. For your folks, she has been married and has a kid, but they both died in a car accident, and she survived. And now she has woken up in a solitary, sort of like a cell, and so forth. And she's being questioned by people, and so forth, in a voice that she can't hear across the speaker. And what's happened in between is that she knows that there's been a big giant world war rending of wars of a nuclear age that's really destroyed the world in a massive way. So this is a post-apocalyptic book, then, if you will, and so forth. We'll find out very quickly on that there are a race of creatures, of aliens, that are the ones on the other side of the room, and are interviewing her. that have saved the humans and and are now coming in as sort of an errand of mercy, if you will, for folks. But they aren't sure if we actually will want it, because they think their interpretation of us as genetic humans is that we have an inconsistency in our genetics. We're super smart. One of the most smartest races that this race of international intergalactic aliens has ever come across. But we are very, very hierarchical from our times as primates and so forth, and we haven't sort of let those go. And so, for example, that's one of the reasons why the nuclear war happened. When the powers that be said, or the people in the office said, launch the nuclear weapons, we didn't say, we didn't use our intelligence to say, we shouldn't do that, right? And so forth. We just did it because our bosses told us to, right? Even though we knew it would be bad for the world, if you will, right? And so forth. So since that's happened, and so forth, that's sort of, the genetic issue. We're super smart, but we're also, very, very hierarchical, right? Also, we'll fight each other in order to establish dominance, like alpha males in wolf packs and that sort of thing, right? So that's sort of where we get, and so they think we're going to just do it again and kill ourselves again, right? So so there's a lot of debate back and forth between them and so forth, but they do ultimately decide to help us out and reach out to us and so forth. So that's basically what's happening. The backstory in the first 4 or 5 chapters in the first novel for folks, and then there you go. So I can leave it to what happens then, and what happens and so forth. I do think that Octavia Butler, you can definitely see her views on things with the hierarchy aspects being inconsistent with our intelligence, right? I would also add to that also our othering of other folks in order to sort of get along, like racism, misogyny, right? Or just even, just being bullies on somebody who might look exactly like us, right? But who's weaker or smaller and something like that too. Also, just sort of our othering of other people. I would also argue is also against our intelligence, because we're smart people, right? We're super smart. So I also would argue that would be something to do. But there you are. But I like this. I think it's good and so forth. I think you could definitely see some good stuff there. I agree with my friend that this probably isn't the best execution, but it's definitely good. I like the key ideas that you can see from this. And I can definitely see a more mature sort of thing coming out of this too. So I think that this trilogy is probably best for more adult people and so forth. There's sex scenes in each of them, but now these sex scenes advance the plot, if you will. So I think that's good and so forth. They're not just there for mature, oh my god, here's the next sex scene, right? They've advanced the plot, which I approve of and so forth. Like, they'll sort of, have good things in them and so forth, but there are sex scenes in them and so forth. Just, so this is a more mature, but there's not like any curse words or any language or any violence. In fact, there's not even any major combat scenes here and there. You might go chapters without actual combat scenes, right? Which is not typical for a post-apocalyptic. So it's definitely a different take, and I definitely appreciate that. I think she lands it well with this faster read and so forth. So I think this is probably going to be more like a 7.5 out of 10. I think this is my favorite one in the three books. I definitely like it. Also, as a reminder, there's a character in here in the second book who has Huntington's disease, and I have Huntington's disease too. So there's also that sort of a synergy. So I'm obviously going to be more friendly for somebody who gets my disease, has some information in it, does a well job, because she'd done research on that similar condition in the short story that I read earlier. So obviously I'm going to be biased, right, because I think she does a good job, right? If you include Huntington's disease, but you don't do it good, like Galapagos, I don't really have a big opinion of you by a big guy in the sci-fi field. But this, I think she does a good job in the second novel for you folks. So there you are. I'll go ahead and leave it to it. Have you read Octavia E. Butler's series, or the finale, Imago, the 258-page finale that I'm giving it a 7.5 to? If so, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it, or if you agree to disagree with my 7.5 out of 10. Otherwise, I'm just going to go ahead and thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing and watching my video, because we all have so many things that are happening in our lives. And we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me, that's incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. And finally, I just want to, if you like this, hit the subscribe button, the like button, reach out to your folks, friends, and so forth, and share it. And if you're feeling frisky, hit the bell icon too to be reminded of my 3 videos that I upload a week. Thanks again. Have a great day.